Among produce, there's one king. And that king of produce is a pain in the neck to grow in our climate. And maybe it's a pain in the neck to grow in your climate as well. What is the king of produce? The tomato. Everybody wants to grow tomatoes. Slicing tomatoes, canning tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, heirloom tomatoes. But growing them can break your heart. Fortunately, we found the answer. Cold, hard cash. I spent 10 grand on this greenhouse. Just so my sultry, foxy, amazing wife could grow tomatoes. And so I could leave random plants all over the place and make as big a mess as I wanted to without getting chased out of the house. But hey, tomatoes. Don't take my word for it.
So these are my tomatoes. David put in this greenhouse, and I really wanted to grow tomatoes, Roma tomatoes this year. It was my goal to grow enough tomatoes to be able to jar some. And I asked my friend Colette how she got so many beautiful tomatoes last year, and she said that she put them in her greenhouse. And it kept them from getting too much water, because we end up getting lots and lots of rain sometimes that, you know, the tomatoes, they'll just get so much water that they crack. They just don't do well in this climate. So since we had the greenhouse, David pulled up the weed cloth section here for me, and we planted the tomatoes right in the ground here in the greenhouse. And you can see they are doing really well. Now, I have to confess, I am a really bad tomato mama. Look, they're not staked up very well. I feel really guilty. This is a big confession. You can all see how badly they're doing as far as being staked up. There's weeds. But you know what? They're still producing lots of tomatoes. They look pretty good as far as the production of tomatoes goes. Between the frost and the pounding rain and the heat and the bugs, tomatoes just really have a hard time here. So we found that putting them inside was really the way to go. As you can see, we have far fewer tomato plants this year than we did last year in our garden. We put lots out there compared to this. And we've already harvested like 37 pounds of tomatoes, and they're still coming in, and they're doing well. This is the way to go.
Though I didn't build this greenhouse to grow tomatoes, it has been a joy to my wife. We actually built this greenhouse for the plant nursery, and we have paid for it with the sales that we've made in our plant nursery. So this is rather like if your friend owns a helicopter and you'd like to get across town, and he says, "Would you like to ride in my helicopter across town?" And you say yes. It's piggybacking off something that existed for another reason, but it's worked very well to grow tomatoes. We have had such difficulty with large tomatoes over the years. It's either a late frost, or it's the bugs, or all the other things that Rachel said. But to be able to grow all of our sauce for the year,
priceless.
I grew tomatoes in the Deep South, and it only cost me $10,000.
I've been really trying, baby.
I bought my wife a $10,000 greenhouse.
You can't afford this tomato.
Mr. Beast said I could have this greenhouse if I grew him tomatoes. This is a place that I grow tomatoes in. You won't believe this place that I grow tomatoes in. 15 tricks to growing tomatoes in this place that only costs $10,000.
Tomatoes so simple, $10,000 could do it.
You won't believe number 5.
I actually think that this, I want to say, hopefully you put this in here, that this is really a very negative video, and I don't like how negative it is.
You want to put that in here?
No, don't you think?
It's not negative.
But it's
Drop 10 G's with greenhousekits1.com.
kind
and
of
you can
sad.
grow your own tomatoes.
It's kind of sad. I mean,
Poor people hate this farmer.
these tomatoes are a blessing, and we're glad for all the tomatoes. And I'm glad that David already had the greenhouse that is allowing us to do this and that he let me have the space so that we can grow them. I'm very grateful. And that's the message I would like to send, is that I'm very grateful to have the tomatoes, and I don't want to send any negative messages.
One of the main focuses of my gardening over the years is how you can keep things simple with hand tools, with homemade compost, with tried and true methods and crops that like your climate. So this sort of a video of, it just cracked me up so much when I saw this big pile of tomatoes. This big pile of tomatoes was like, yeah, we grew a big pile of tomatoes and it only cost $10,000. It's like the exact opposite of what we normally do, but it has been a blessing. So it's just really funny. I love the idea of like when you could buy a Rolex or a Bentley or something, but no, we're blowing it on tomatoes. Roma, you know, it's like, it's crazy. The Roma Empire. Yeah.
I'm driving with the top down, baby. Rain won't stop me. I'm high on black coffee, baby. Your blues won't rock me.
Sometimes it just doesn't make sense to grow certain things in certain climates. Here in, you know, just north of the Florida Panhandle, lower Alabama, this entire area is just a difficult place to grow tomatoes. But the Everglades tomatoes do great for us. And we've experimented with carbon tomatoes and some other varieties. And if you can get things in early and you use lots of compost and you dodge the frosts and this and that and the other thing, you can grow tomatoes. But the greenhouse has certainly made it easy. However, if you were going to build a survival garden, or if you just wanted to have produce for your family, spending a lot of money on a greenhouse wouldn't make sense. Perhaps a small cattle panel greenhouse for a few $100. I think it's something like that, which is about the square footage of what we have back here. Maybe this is a little bit more, but you could build something like that pretty inexpensively. And if you did it for multiple years, your tomatoes might start paying for themselves. It really depends on how much you love tomatoes, what you want to put into it. If we filled this entire greenhouse full of tomatoes, we would have probably enough to start paying for the greenhouse with tomatoes. There is an economy of scale like that. We could find a local restaurant and grow tomatoes and sell them. That's what a lot of market gardeners do, because they know it takes a lot of extra care to deal with tomatoes in this humid, muggy, deep south climate. But if you really just wanted to grow food and you weren't set on tomatoes, grow the stuff that already loves your climate. Keep it minimal, keep it simple so you won't be burning money. You can learn more about that philosophy and how to make your gardening a lot simpler with a lot less in my book, Minimalist Gardening. This greenhouse is almost the exact opposite of minimalist gardening. So if you find this appalling, that we just simply blew all this money to grow 37 pounds of Romas, check out my book, Minimalist Gardening, and give me more money so I can blow it on other stupid things. Thanks for joining me, and my beautiful wife. Until next time, may your thumbs always be green. Always be green. Always be green. We filming?